Good afternoon, I'm Karen Kozia Phillips. C-News is live.
And I'm Nasira Mohammed with sport.
To the top of the news now, two former Special Ops soldiers were this morning held with several firearms, ammunition and spare number plates along the Uriah Butler Highway. Reports say the bust was made by the Highway Patrol Unit at around 6:40. The officers are said to have stopped the SUV in the vicinity of the Monroe Road flyover and carried out a search. 3 firearms, including a mini Uzi with an extended magazine, a quantity of ammunition and a quantity of cash were found. The 2 occupants are now in police custody. Minister in the Office of the Prime Minister, Stuart Young, is repeating his cabinet colleagues' call that government is prepared to do what is required for the Foreign Accounts Tax Compliance Act, FATCA legislation, to be passed. On Wednesday, Minister of Planning and Development Camille Robinson-Regis assured that the legislation would be brought back to Parliament after debate on the 2016-2017 budget. Minister Young is calling on citizens to hold parliamentarians accountable, especially the opposition.
And speak to the opposition. You don't barrage them, you don't abuse them, you don't bully them, but have a conversation with them. And I was very, very disappointed in how that message was received. The pressure was put on the government, even though I had said, go and speak to the opposition because you need their support.
He says the opposition is also against the legislation for the Revenue Authority, and he wants to know why.
The immediate cry from the leader of the opposition is, we will not support the Revenue Authority. I have stood in Parliament and have talked about bringing the Revenue Authority. The opposition is adamant they're not going to support a Revenue Authority. And this is the point I'd like to make. Why would you not support a Revenue Authority? Why would somebody stand in the way of the Revenue Authority? Do you have something to hide?
The Single Fathers Association has launched a Facebook Live campaign to get support for Jerome Henry. Henry was arrested and charged for negligence after his 5-year-old son fell into a drain and drowned. He was granted bail in the sum of $75,000, which he secured last Friday. The association is asking all Facebook Live users to wear red, white and black and make a post to their Facebook page to show sympathy and empathize with Mr. Henry.
Red or white or black, and you put your post there sharing your love and inspiring Mr. Henry as you go forward. This definitely has been an eye-opener for the entire country, parents all across Trinidad and Tobago, and even the wider cross-section as well, across the region.
Mr. Fields says the government can play a big part in this matter.
Daycare services being provided for the families that need to work to earn revenue to take care of the very said children. It's a serious and pressing issue. I mean, we in Trinidad and Tobago could give our opinions as we post Facebook Live today.
Well, as Hurricane Matthew plows through the Caribbean and eyes the U.S., Florida Governor Rick Scott has declared a state of emergency, warning residents to prepare for the worst, as it is likely the storm, which could potentially make landfall Thursday night, will bring hurricane conditions to a sizable swath of the state's Atlantic coast. As of Wednesday morning, there's a mandatory evacuation order in effect for Brevard County, and a voluntary evacuation is currently underway in St. Lucie County. Governor Scott advised in a press conference Wednesday morning that all coastal residents could potentially be in harm's way and should consider evacuating. You're watching the C-News Live report at noon. Remember, you can keep up to date with all the latest news on our website at ctvtt.com, or you can check out our Facebook and Twitter pages at C-News Live. So for a look at what's happening with Matthew, here's more from the Weather Channel.
Advisories in from the National Hurricane Center, and Hurricane Matthew has strengthened once again as it moves over the Bahamas. Winds are now back up to 120 miles per hour. This is still a Category 3 storm that is expected to strengthen as it continues to move to the northwest. Now, hurricane warnings have also been extended in Florida northward to include Daytona Beach. So the track hasn't changed much. It's still taking it up the southeast coast as early as Friday. So hurricane-force winds will start to move into the Florida area Thursday night into Friday. That's when Florida will see the worst of this storm, and then it will ride up the southeast coast before it turns off east into the Atlantic late this weekend. Impacts will be hurricane-force winds, storm surge, rip currents, and of course, a lot of rain along the immediate coast.
And now here's a look at the local weather forecast.
Deep into the wet season, and yet another tropical wave is set to affect the Windward Islands today. Meteorological Service advising that strong winds of 50 kilometers per hour and street and flash flooding is possible. Thundery downpours expected across Tobago and Trinidad. Meanwhile, Nicole is well north of the Eastern Caribbean, no threat to Trinidad and Tobago, but will likely threaten Bermuda by the weekend. Today should feel mild at 32 degrees Celsius with the oldest cloudiness around, and we'll likely see a cool night of 24 degrees Celsius later. For fisherfolk and mariners, look for fresh winds easterly at 15 to 20 knots, gusting to 25 knots in those offshore showers. Moderate choppy swells from the east-northeast of 8 seconds, and wind waves up to 2 meters through the Caribbean and the Atlantic. Tide is low at 1 p.m., then high at 7 p.m. That is the latest weather, and I am meteorologist Ian Wallace.
The West Indian Tobacco Company, Whitco, says it was hoping the government would not have raised the price of their products, as it says it contributes to a black market, which in turn would lead to the government losing revenue. Here's more in this report.
Managing Director of the West Indian Tobacco Company Limited, Japed Kudre, says when the excise tax on tobacco products were raised in 2010, there was an increase in the number of illicit brands entering the market illegally. He says before the 2017 budget was presented, he spoke with government officials, trying to persuade them not to increase the tax on tobacco products.
What had happened then was the difference between legal and illegal pricing, because you now have these higher duties in play, provided the opportunity or made the market more attractive now for people to take the risk of smuggling product into the market. And we saw it start to escalate around that time. And we have seen a continued increase since then. So this is why we were trying to talk to the government before this previous budget here, so that they would be aware of the situation taking place in the market.
Sir Ronnie Flanagan, the featured speaker at the Crime Stoppers Forum, told us it's up to the government to put legislation in place to ensure those involved are caught and brought to justice, as he noted illicit drugs is not a victimless crime.
The government loses millions of dollars through legitimate taxes that they should be getting. And when they lose those millions of dollars, they can't build schools and hospitals and roads and provide social support to the community in the way that they can. Small businesses are put out of business by these organised crime groups selling illicit product. So the message to the community is this is not a victimless crime.
Mr. Kudre explained education is key.
We need everyone to come together around the table. That's part of the education process and work together. So you're talking about government, you're talking about the industry, you're talking about the media and other stakeholders as well to get that message across. Now, we haven't even reached the point really of coming up with an education campaign to start even going out there and having that discussions, but that's where we need to be.
The price of tobacco products will be increased by 15% from October 20th. Rishi Harinanan, C News.
Well, that report brings us to our poll question. We asked, do you believe the black market for tobacco will flourish as a result of the increase in the excise tax by 15%? And here's what some of you had to say. Crystal Lowe said the black market will get smart and raise their price also. Rajesh Boise said no, cigarettes will sell no matter the cost. Several others said simply no. Remember, you can join the discussion on our Facebook page at CNews Live. While officers searching for 34-year-old Ria Sukdeo are again asking friends and family to disclose information which may lead to her whereabouts. The mother of two went missing 2 Thursdays ago. On Monday, officers continued their search, hoping to find her. However, they say this is not any normal kidnapping since no ransom has been demanded. It's reported that police are now trying to get in-depth information on her personal life, as she may have said something to someone which led to her kidnapping. Now they are hoping if they find out what, they will be able to locate her. Words of wisdom this morning for students of Presentation College from the Attorney General, Faris Al-Rawi. He tells the children that failure is good for guidance.
One of my messages to them was love your failures because they're your best teachers. I pointed out to them that kids usually remember, we all remember, every question we got wrong in an examination as opposed to all those that we got right, and that they should therefore recognize the lesson there.
He also reminds them that God is important in all their endeavors.
Many people have come from very humble beginnings to go on to reach for the stars, and that their lives are well before them. I reminded them that I did maths, physics and chemistry at my A-levels and ended up a lawyer, so that their current path isn't necessarily defined by what they are currently pursuing. And then the last bit was about finding the balance between God, physical activity and hard work, and that the right attitude takes you to where you want to go.
AG Al-Rawi says that on Career Day, students should follow not only their aptitude, but also their attitude with equal poise. And October 5th marks the global celebration of World Teachers' Day, in honor of those who have dedicated their lives to educating the population. Recalling his own experiences 39 years in the profession, Education Minister Anthony Garcia says in order to create a sustainable learning experience for students, the working conditions of teachers must be improved.
So our government, my government, one of our major objectives is to ensure that the physical conditions under which the teachers operate are first class.
Mr. Garcia said the construction of new schools and refurbishment of existing ones remain government's priority, and noted that the newly completed New Grant Anglican School will be used as their standard for future projects.
We have so many other schools because we were able to provide that school in a short space of time, but the conditions are excellent.
The minister was speaking at the Holy Trinity Cathedral Church in Port of Spain this morning, where the Anglican Board of Education hosted a service in celebration of World Teachers' Day. And as mentioned, today is World Teachers' Day, and this is a special day for the appreciation of teachers and may include celebrations to honor them for their special contributions in a particular field area or the community in general. In light of this, the Trinidad and Tobago Unified Teachers Union is urging teachers to do something in their schools.
Today is a normal day. What we ask teachers to do is do something in your school to recognize yourself amongst yourself, to show appreciation to each other.
The idea of celebrating Teachers' Day took root in many countries during the 20th century. In most cases, they celebrate a local educator or an important milestone in education. Now Nasira Mohammed is here to tell us what's happening in the world of sport. Nasira.
Well, Karen, it's the third and final ODI versus Pakistan by the West Indies. Pakistan won the toss and chose to bat first in the third and final ODI versus the West Indies at the Sheikh Zayed Stadium in Abu Dhabi. It proved to be a good decision again, as the West Indies bowlers had the most difficult time breaking the Pakistani batting. With 85 runs on the board, they finally had a breakthrough when Sulaiman Ben had Sharjeel Khan caught for 38. Then it was all one-way traffic until the 38th over. By this time, Azhar Ali had reached 101 before Jason Holder bowled him. The score was now 232. Shoaib Malik had another bad day with the bat, as he could only muster 5 runs before Sunil Narine accounted for his wicket. And it was once again the Babar Azam show, as he recorded a historical third consecutive century in as many matches in a single ODI series. With the score on 280 though, Kieron Pollard bowled Azam for 117 runs. Pakistan eventually ended their innings on 308 for 6 from their 50 overs. The West Indies had 2 changes in their squad. Johnson Charles and Carlos Brathwaite were dropped, and in came Evan Lewis and Shannon Gabriel. Now, to give you an updated score, the West Indies are currently 61 for 1 from 14.4 overs. The not-out batsman Craig Brathwaite on 27 and Darren Bravo on 4. Evan Lewis made 22. And on to more news of cricket. The WICB has responded to comments by cricketer Dwayne Bravo, which claimed that win-ball cricket in TNT was more organized than the WICB and the senior men's team. The response by Joel Garner, manager of the senior men's team, stated, "The management of the West Indies team in Dubai is disappointed but not surprised by the comments made in the press by Dwayne Bravo."
To come out and talk about these things now is because, one, I'm hurting. Two, I am seeing that our cricket actually have nowhere to go, and that's the honest truth. And if, so as I said, the people of the region don't really get serious, we saw CARICOM trying to get involved and stuff. If something drastic don't really happen, it's going to get worse and worse and worse. And it's just going to be a sad, sad time for West Indies cricket and for everybody in the region.
Ghana went on to say the team was well prepared to engage Pakistan, considering the conditions and the adjustments that were necessary to bring meaningful benefits to this team. Whilst change is difficult to manage, none of the players were neglected by the coaching and support staff in the execution of their duties. The team's preparation consisted of acclimatization, and there was a 7-day build-up to the first T20 match, which included a warm-up. Mr. Bravo, with prior permission by the former head coach, turned up on the day before the first T20 match. His suggestion of disorganization in the team's plans and preparation is therefore false and misleading, end quote. And on to news of football now. There were similar sentiments expressed by midfielders Cordell Cato and Kaleem Highland. Both felt that the Warriors must shake off their last result, a 4-0 defeat to the United States in the previous round of the CONCACAF World Cup qualifying.
We know our downfalls in the past couple of games that we play. We know our weakness, we know our strength. We just have to work on the weakness and improve on the strength to be better as a team. This game, we will take in these games very, very, very serious because it's a building process, and also for us to get things right for the Hex.
In terms of the game, you just have to get back to what we've been doing, and that is being very compact and working hard for each other. That's been the success over the past couple of years, and it will continue to carry us forward.
Meanwhile, turmoil in nearby Guyana, where its football team is lacking in match practice ahead of their Caribbean Cup preparations. The head of the Guyana Football Federation, Wayne Ford, says the major issue is the prohibitive cost of air travel in the region.
Wayne Ford said the Federation is working effectively with the limited resources at hand to get the national team ready for the CFU qualifiers next month.
The best that we can do under the circumstances, my friend. The team has been training for the past 2 weeks. They're going to be intensifying that training over the next couple of days. They're going to be moving around. We're going to be doing a lot of practice games within Guyana, putting together some teams to give them the playing time that we're far behind now but still needs. The difficulty is unique to CFU. Everyone within the CFU family that continues to be in the CFU tournament is seeking practice games. The challenge for most of us is that we can't afford to fly. The cost of flying within the CFU family is exorbitant. So we've had negotiations and commitment from some of our sister nations, but to get here is the challenge for us. To get there is the challenge. Everyone wants to play. We all want to play, but the cost of travel is really, really a challenge for most.
And that's it for sport today.
Life started returning to normal in Jamaica after the National Meteorological Service declared that the island was no longer under threat of Hurricane Matthew and lifted the tropical storm warning that was in effect. Schools, which were closed for 2 days because of the threat from the hurricane, are expected to reopen today, with the exception of 3 which were used as hurricane shelters. Marie-Therese Bernard gives us an idea of what's taking place in and around the Caribbean.
Leaving Haiti in total disaster, Hurricane Matthew slammed into Cuba on Tuesday night. At least 11 deaths have been attributed to the storm. 5 deaths were reported in Haiti, including a 26-year-old man who drowned trying to rescue a child who fell into a rushing river. The child was saved. 4 deaths were recorded in the neighboring Dominican Republic and 1 each in Colombia and in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. On Monday, Guyana marked the 117th anniversary of the 1899 Arbitral Award handed down in Paris with neighboring Venezuela, which details the land boundary between the two countries. They have condemned Venezuela for its continued rejection of the 1899 Arbitral Award, which settled the border controversy between the two countries. The Guyana Ministry of Foreign Affairs said that Venezuela on Monday marked the occasion with a statement unworthy of a law-abiding member of the international community. They say Venezuela's statement is a reaffirmation of its disrespect for the rule of law among nations. The Foreign Ministry said that Guyana is marking the occasion with the release of a booklet in English and in Spanish called The New Conquistadors or Los Nuevos Conquistadores, which gives an account of the tribunal's award and Venezuela's 60-year recognition and respect for it. A popular criminal lawyer in St. Lucia will be appointed the new Director of Public Prosecutions, as has been promised by the Alan Chastanet-led government. Dazrian Green, who has been in legal practice since 1999, will be officially appointed to the post on October 17, 2016. Western diplomats had urged the previous St. Lucia Labour Party government to appoint a DPP and a deputy DPP to deal with the backlog of cases and the many adjournments that lead to delays in the criminal justice system. They had noted that delays can often lead to no justice.
Donald Trump was likened to a fool or maniac, while Hillary Clinton was dismissed as weak and reckless in a punchy vice presidential debate. Democratic Virginia Senator Tim Kaine and Republican Indiana Governor Mike Pence clashed on a series of topics ranging from abortion to Russia, but they focused their sharpest exchanges on Mrs. Clinton and Mr. Trump. The running mates tangled at Longwood University in Farmville, Virginia, 34 days before Americans go to the polls. And that's the CNews for lunchtime. CNews, powered by our team of journalists and producers across the Republic and the region, on television, radio, and online.
CNews, your country, our job.